I want to let everyone know the reason we have this display here is because we have voting coming up November 6th.
Yes, sir.
And I put these images here because I want this to push you to do what you're supposed to do. Okay, you're missing me. There were people who fought. There were people who bled. There were people who died for you to have a right to cast your ballot and make your voice heard. I refuse to be among a group of people who become so arrogant to think that they ain't got to do or respect with those who have laid down their lives to give us a right to do. So I want to push you, my brothers and my sisters, to vote. You cannot continue to complain in private when you won't do nothing in public. We cannot just vote for the president. That's not the only election that matters. Okay. Your children need to see you vote. Your grandchildren need to see you vote. And then you need to teach them the reason that they have to vote, because we got a governor right now that's on his way out, but we got a governor that proved he didn't even care enough about black people to stop the problem they were facing.
Say it again. My. Say it.
How you a governor and you don't even know what's going on in the city that's under you? You can't convince me. In your house, you the governor in your house, and ain't nothing going on in your house you don't know about.
Come on.
But yet we have a governor who says, I didn't know. And then got a black man, I'm Deke, y'all might have to pray for me, but I'm feeling this thing. But now we got a black man that's on his way to jail because he fell on the sword for our governor. At what point do we start holding all these people accountable? We put them in office, then we've got to start holding them folk accountable. And the reason we can't hold them accountable is because all we do is complain but won't go do nothing.
Say it.
So this, my friends, is your time to let your voice be heard. If you are tired of being mistreated, if you are tired of being looked over, if you are tired for folk in the White House who don't care nothing of, okay. Let me get to my text. We got to make a change. So social justice, this is what we're about. This is what the church responsibility is. We have to educate our community. We are the light in our community. If our community is going to change, it's going to change because the folk within these walls got outside of these walls and went to the street and started touching the very people we're trying to avoid. It's because the folk on the inside of the walls went out into the street and we started educating the very people that we complaining about. That's the only way a difference can and will ever be made. We are the lighthouse on Mack Avenue, and I declare before the name of our God that we will do what a lighthouse does, and what a lighthouse do is shine light, and we gonna shine in the darkness on Mack Avenue, and people gonna know if you come up in here, we gonna not only lead you in the right way, we not gonna only pray for you, we not gonna only give you a word, but we gonna meet your needs. That's what we're about. That's what we're for. First Peter, I got to get to this. First Peter chapter 2. Y'all pray for me. First Peter chapter 2. We're going to read verse 1, 8, and 9, and then we're going to jump over to chapter 4 and read verse 2. Y'all got it? When you found it, say amen. All right, I'm reading from the NIV, so mine's going to read a little different. But it reads, therefore, rid yourselves of all malice and all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and slander of every kind. Jump down to verse 8. And a stone that causes people to stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the message, which is also what they were destined for. Verse 9. But ye are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who have called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Jump over to chapter 4, verse 2. And it says, as a result, they do not live the rest of their earthly lives for evil human desires, but rather for the will of God. I want to talk to you today from this thought, the reason for the lack of social justice.
All right.
The reason for the lack of social justice. Pastor John MacArthur stated in a document that he and about 44 other evangelical pastors signed on September 8th. In that document, he said, we reject any teaching that encourages racial groups to view themselves as privileged oppressors or entitled victims of oppression. While we are to weep with those who weep, we deny that any person's feelings of offense or oppression necessarily prove that someone else is guilty of sinful behaviors, oppression, and prejudice. I took issue, Deacon D. Berry, with that statement. Because while, yes, we are to weep with those who weep, Reggie, you cannot convince me that black people have not been systematically oppressed for over 400 years. And then to make the claim that nobody is responsible for these sinful behaviors, which then suggests, Deacon Warren, that we brought it on ourselves.
Have mercy, Jesus. Have mercy.
I got issue, and just in case there are some of you in here today who subscribe to John MacArthur's theology, let me help you.
Come on. Say it again.
Because apparently you don't understand what social justice is.
Come on.
Don't worry, I've done you the favor of doing the check and the search to get the definition for you.
Come on.
Told you I came to preach today.
Preach.
Social justice is a concept of fair and just relations between individuals and society. The institutions often include taxation, social insurance, public health, public school, public service, law, labor and law, and regulations of fair markets. And this is all done, or this is all pushed to ensure the fair distribution of wealth, equal opportunity, and privileges within society. Touch your neighbor, say, we have to have social justice. And contrary to MacArthur's claim, it needs to come from our pulpits, because half the folk that are being bound, that are oppressed, that are dealing with these issues are coming to our churches every week. Okay, you ain't got to say, man. You ain't got to say, man. You can't convince me that the people in the pews don't deal with discrimination. So to stand and say that the church ought not be talking about social justice, I got issue with you, MacArthur, because if not, then we wouldn't have Trayvon Martin, we wouldn't have Botham Jean, we wouldn't have Tamar Rice, we wouldn't have Michael Brown, we wouldn't have Eric Garner, we wouldn't have women still fighting for equality, we wouldn't have voter discrimination, and we wouldn't have preachers in the White House who can't say nothing. You gonna tell me social justice ain't an issue?
Say it. Preach.
When preachers sitting with the president
Come on.
can't even say a word.
Come on.
Don't tell me it's not an issue.
Yes.
When HBCU presidents meet with him and can't say a word.
Say it. Preach.
But yet you let Kanye West who has documented mental health concerns talk to the president for 10 minutes uninterrupted. And you let him speak or be the voice for Black America. We got a problem when we silence the prophetic voice.
Yes, sir.
And we allow entertainers to speak for us. That sends the message that the preachers don't matter, but entertainers do. Okay. And so I've come to tell you, we got a problem. And it is the responsibility of the church to stand up in this day and time and start talking about these issues. Because truth be told, I don't want to bury your kids. Truth be told, I don't want to bury your grandbabies.
Come on. Yes, sir.
Shouldn't have to be scared if you're going to pray for me or pray on me.
Come on. Say it.
I understand. I want you to know I stand with James Brown in 1960. You know I'm Black and I'm proud, but at the same time, in my blackness and in my proudness, I understand that a Black man in America will not make it without a God on his side. And that's why we got to get to the place where we start cleaning out our house. Your kids can't stay at home. You're going to worship our God. You're going to learn how to pray. You're going to learn how to fast. You're going to learn how to trust God, because without God, you ain't gonna make it. I got to get to my text, but so the question is, what role does the church play?
Come on. Tell us.
What's the church's responsibility, preacher? Because you know I was always told, as long as I come on Sunday, I give my little money, I show up to Bible study, every now and then I'm gonna come to school, Sunday school, every now and then, but as long as my name is on the roll, the church will be able to bury me for free. And that's all I really want. I just want the privileges that come with membership, but not the responsibility that comes with membership. And I got news for you. There is a responsibility that you have while you running around here crying and snotting your nose, while you running around here laying out on the floor, while you sticking your chest out. I go to Samaritan. You have a responsibility.
Preach.
According to Matthew 5:23-24, first responsibility of the church is to reconcile relationships.
That's right.
Okay, talk boy. I want you to know that the reason the nation is divided is because the church is divided. It does not matter what church you go to. It does not matter what denomination affiliation you hold. What matters is if you preaching Christ and I'm preaching Christ, why you over there and I'm over here? Why we can't come together and still preach Christ? We are to reconcile relationships. I got 20 minutes and I got to go. Second responsibility we have is we are to care for families.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
What happened to be in the church of the community. What happened? Many churches now don't even have programs for their community. Many churches now don't clothe them. They don't feed them. They just want to herd them in like cattle, get their money and send them on their way. And they're going back home broken. They're going back home confused. They're going back home dejected. And they come to church, the one place where everybody's supposed to be somebody, the one place where everybody's supposed to get some love, the one place everybody's supposed to get a touch, the one place everybody shouldn't be a black sheep, because we all on the same page. We are to make families whole. Not only are we responsible for families, but we are also responsible for the care of all human beings. And I got news for you. Human beings has nothing to do with your race. It's a simple fact that you got blood running warm in your veins. And I got an issue with all you pet lovers who love your dog more than you love the person sitting next to you. I got an issue with you who love your pets more than you do the people you worship with. We got to get back to the place where we start caring about everybody. I don't care how you smell. I don't care what you look like. You need help. I'm in a position now, I got 2 nickels to rub together, so I'm going to give you one of the nickels I got. It ain't about me, it's about us. We're to be concerned about the human condition. How you love God and you hate his creation. I'm going to preach it till I'm through. How you love God deep, and they walk right by you on the side of the road.
Yes, sir.
But you deep and wonderful.
Come on.
Whew, all that good type of stuff.
Yeah.
Can't nobody tell you nothing.
Well.
And as soon as your feelings get hurt, okay.
Yeah. Come on.
Okay. I ain't having no meetings after this. If you mad, just pray about it. The next thing the church is responsible for is to care for all Christians.
That's it. Preach.
Wait.
Yes, sir.
Hold on. Preacher.
Yes, sir.
You mean all of them? All of them.
All of them.
Even the ones that purposely do me wrong.
Yes, come on.
All of them.
All of them.
You mean the ones that purposely lie on me?
Yes, sir.
All of them.
All of them.
Why? I got to love and care for all of them. Because we are in the earth realm a representation of the God that we serve. And the God that we serve loved you and cared for you based on your sin and knowing what it is you was going to do after you made your confession. And so therefore, because he knew what you was going to do after your confession, he still kept loving on you through your confession. And even after everything is said and done, he's sitting there saying, come on back home. I'm just waiting on you. You ain't got to keep struggling with that thing forever. Trouble don't last always. It's about to get a little bit better. And the reason we are to love all Christians is because I got the word of faith in my mouth. And when you get weak, it's my responsibility to tell you what the word says, to get you up out of what you in. That's why we got to love all Christians. I come to tell you that those who are not of the household of faith go through hell for the hell of it. But those who are of the household of faith go through hell so they can grow through what they go through. Where you are is meant to grow you. I never thought, Deacon D. Berry, when I was here, I was raised by my grandmother, and I hung out with my grandmother and her friends. So everybody, they had experience. They had life on their side. I'm a young pup. I ain't know nothing. And so, I used to listen to them talk, and I used to hear of how bad things were in their day. I used to hear how it was that they couldn't go into certain restrooms. I used to hear how it was they had to pick cotton. I used to have to hear all those stories. And I remember thinking to myself, I thank God that I didn't have to live in that day. And I come to tell you, thank God we've made it far, but I let you know that it seems like the more the day is going, Deacon Warren, we're moving backwards into the very thing that God has brought us from. And I got news for you. The reason we're going back to where God has brought us from is because the people that God brought out is the very people that forgot the God that brought them out. And until we get back to the place where we learn how to trust God, until we get back to the place where we put God back where he belongs, we're going to keep going on the decline. I come to tell you, social justice is needed. The church has responsibility. But that's not my issue. My issue, unless you say I didn't preach my text, is the reason we got the lack of it. Oh, God help me. The reason we got a lack of social justice. Text says, therefore, rid yourself of all malice and all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and slander of every kind. Oh, God, I don't mean to mess with you. I don't want to mess up your theology, but I want you to know the first reason we have a lack of social justice is because we are holding on to all this other stuff so that we don't know how to embrace one another. We're too busy holding on to who hurt us and who frustrated us, who said this and who said that. We're too busy running folk down, and when we hold on to all that stuff, it keeps us full of hell. And so I'm trying to figure out why we're willing to hold on to the very thing that kills us instead of letting it go and gravitating to the very one that brings life. Until we learn how to let go of all these other things that's only taking up space and keeping your mind going, you can't even sleep at night because you're holding on to all that malice. You can't even keep peace on your job because you're walking around as a hypocrite because they know you're going to say one thing but you're going to do something else before your lips get okay. There are some people, as long as their lips are moving, they lying. Okay. So first of all, tell your neighbor, say, let that stuff go. Let that stuff go. Second thing text says, and I got to roll up. The second thing text says is that, and a stone that causes people to stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. Says they stumble because they disobey the message, which is also what they were destined for.
Well, come on.
The reason there's a lack of social justice is because everybody is ignoring their assignment. God help me. I understand you may be a wonderful orator, but it's not your job to stand in the pulpit. I understand you may be a wonderful church member, but everybody don't have the same purpose. And when we all don't have the same purpose, and when we operate outside of the purpose that we have, we cause gaps in the body. And every time we start causing gaps in the body, that issues a foothold for the enemy. And once the enemy gets a foothold, he'll come in and just start spreading out that wedge. You ever seen a crack on the ground in the wintertime, and it starts off as a little crack, but the more it rains and the more it freezes, this crack begins to spread and spread, and next thing you know, you got a whole crater in the middle of the street, and you're trying to figure out, how did we get here? The reason we got here is because we didn't handle our assignment. Get out of folks' way. Stop tripping folk up. Some people have only fallen because you're in the wrong place. Okay. Let me give it to you like this. There are times when I would get up, Deacon Greg, in the middle of the night, because I need some water or something. I'm getting up and I'm moving and I'm rushing. And things are dark, but I know the layout of my house. And so I can navigate my house even with no lights on. But the problem comes when my daughter doesn't pick up her stuff. And so because my daughter didn't pick up her stuff and I didn't know her stuff was left where it was, when I start to walk, going to do what I know to do because I know how to do it and I know how to get there, because her stuff is still in the floor, I end up tripping over stuff. And as I trip over stuff, I'm bumping into other stuff and I start knocking stuff down and I got stuff all displaced and I'm making a whole lot of noise, but I ain't accomplishing nothing. Listen to what the word says for you. Know what God is requiring for you and just do it. That's all you got to do is just do. He says, because that's what you're destined for. If you having an issue right now with your place, you need to find out, am I destined to be in the place that I'm in? Because if this is the place that I'm in, I won't be able to quit as easy. Because when you're destined to be where you are, help me God, when God has placed you where you are, I go, okay, I can't say that in here. I got mothers over there. But I don't care what people say about you. You ain't going nowhere. You're going to be just like that tree that's planted by the rivers of water, singing that on him I shall not be moved. Why? Because I know my place. Text says, I got 15 minutes. Text says, but ye are a chosen people. Royal priesthood, holy nation. Get this, God's special possession. That you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Here's the reason we have a lack, because many people have forgotten where God brought them from. And because we have forgotten where God brought us from, we have accepted the labels of people who don't even know God. We're letting people call us stuff God never intended us to be. And because we accept those labels, then we start to act out according to the label that was placed on us. But my Bible tells me that you are a royal priesthood. That means, it don't mean for you to be arrogant. It just means for you to realize that you are better than what you display. You got more going for you than you got against you. That means you got to straighten up your back and you got to square your shoulders. Martin Luther King said it best. He said the only way a man can ride your back is when you bend over and let him. I need some folk in the house of God today that's making up in their mind, I'm going to stand. Ain't nobody about to ride me. Ain't nobody going to turn me into something God never said that I was. Ain't nobody going to keep disrespecting me. Ain't nobody going to talk to me any old kind of way. I am royalty. We have to stop letting this culture and this president push us back into the darkness God pulled us from. Okay, I hope you got your shout, because I'm sorry I couldn't shout you today, but I want you to understand you are more than what you display. You are greater than what you have, and you got to get to the place where you gonna stop living beneath your privilege. You got to make sure when you go in your house and you call your children and your grandchildren, and some of you your great-grandchildren, when you start calling them kings and queens, you got to give them something to live up to. You got to show them the king and queen mentality, because the reason they're living like thugs and cutthroats is because we don't bring them to church. Why? Because we go to church. Why? Because we got our own issues of how we think God ought to move. Okay. I grew up, if grandma was going, we was all going. Wasn't no debate. Wasn't no conversation. Wasn't no locking doors in this house. You ain't paying not a nan bill. Yeah, okay. Y'all look at me like you crazy if you want to, but you got kids in your house now that's locking doors, talking about this is my space. No, this ain't your space. I'll pay the bills here. And if I want to, I will come in like Hawaii 5-0 and kick that door wide open. I'm checking your Instagram, I'm checking your Facebook, and I'm checking your Twitter. I'm checking your Snapchat, and I'm looking at all of it. Why? Because we've got to make sure that our young people don't end up going back another 50 years. Because we are in the position now to change the landscape, but won't nobody go vote. I ain't got time to vote, but you got time for everything else. Get up.
Say it.
We shouldn't just hear your voice in the church meeting, but you ain't saying nothing in the community. Okay, y'all looking at me funny. I'm perplexed and I'm bothered because the other day, I was on my way. I was on my way to get my brakes done. I was on my way, and my brakes seized up on me. And while I was there, a police officer was behind me, and he cut on his lights. And immediately I thought about Bolton Jean, and immediately I thought about Trayvon Martin. Immediately I thought about Eric Garner. Immediately I thought about Michael Brown, and I started saying, God, you got to make sure I get back to my family. God, you got to make sure my babies don't know that it ended like this. And so as he approached my car, I was scared because I didn't know what to do. And when he got to my car, he said hello, and I said, because I ain't want no trouble, and I didn't want nobody trying to spin what happened. I wanted them to know my hands was up. But if we had real actionaries for social justice, real actionaries for social change, I wouldn't have had to do that. Because we live in a society where we start holding people accountable for the things and the deeds they do. I come to let you know that you cannot just hold church leaders accountable when you get pissed at something they said, but we let our politicians and our city officials do and say whatever they want to say, and we don't say a word. I got to get out of here. Last thing the text says, and I'm gone. Last thing the text says is, as a result, they do not live the rest of their earthly lives for evil human desires, but rather for the will of God. The reason we've always had such a lack is because the motives of the people have changed.
Well, come on.
There was a time that when our leaders before us stood up, it was about the people.
That's right.
It was a time when our leaders stood before us. They cared about the folk even if they didn't have the same last name. They made sure that when they said we shall overcome, they meant we shall overcome. The issue we have now is everybody has their own agenda. Everybody has their own program. And I come to let you know, too many cooks in the kitchen makes for a big mess. And that's why we got to learn how to just play our part and do our part. No, maybe your job ain't to be on the stove. Maybe your job is to cut the celery. Then baby, cut the celery. Maybe your job is just to be the dishwasher, to make sure everything that comes in dirty leaves out clean, talk boy. So baby, just go over there and just wash the dishes. You've got to learn how to move past yourself selfish motives, because anytime you operate for God with selfish motives, that only brings about your evil desires. And I come to tell you, you can always tell where people are. You can always tell what they about. Just listen to them talk. You can always tell what they want to do. Just listen to them talk. DQ sell cars, and people coming to you all the time. And everybody tells you, I want the best deal. And so the more you listen to them talk, the more you realize they ain't got nothing to bring to the table. So you can't even get what you asking for. What are you saying, Parks? I just want you to know that you got to check your motive, because when you check your motive and when God brings you to the table, you got something to offer. I'm through. I'm done. Let me leave you with this. Let me leave you with the abolitionist hymn. Abolitionist hymn says, we ask not that the slave should lie, as lies his master at his ease, beneath a sinking canopy or in the shade of a blooming tree. We ask not eye for an eye, that all who forge the chain and ply with the whip should feel their torture, while the thrill shall wear the scourge or the scourge of mastership. He says, we mourn not that a man should toil. 'Tis nature's need, 'tis God's decree. But let the hand that tills the soil be like the wind that fans it free. And I just want you to know that we've got to make sure we stay free. And the only way we gonna stay free is if we keep God where he belongs. We got to keep God in our churches. We got to keep God in our pulpits. We've got to keep God in the marketplace. We got to keep God on the job. We got to keep God in the home. We got to keep God in our relationships. We got to keep God in our conversations. We got to make sure our children know who God is, and not just a semblance or an idea of what it is you experience with God, no, but your own experience with the Master. We got to make sure that they understand that one Friday he did die. We got to make sure that they understand that although he did nothing wrong, we got to make sure they understand that they marched him from judgment hall to judgment hall. We got to make sure that they understand they put a crown of thorns on his head. We got to make sure that they understand they put nails in his hands and rivets in his feet. They pierced him in the side, and oh, he died. Yes, he died. But early one Sunday morning, he stepped out on the resurrection ground with all power in the palm of his hands, getting up power, saving power, releasing power. I come to tell you, I got victory. We ain't just get here overnight. It costs something to be here. Stop praying God change what he gave you the power to do. You don't like who's in office? Go vote.
Come on.
Get them out.
Preach.
They ain't gonna keep having prayer visuals. Ooh, Lord, pray for our city officials. You should have prayed before you put them in there. D, can I be honest with you? That's why I don't care if a politician mow the church. All these churches parade these politicians before the people, and they let them lie. Because as soon as they don't do what they promised, they don't hold them accountable. So why are you listening to them? The church is not the place for you to get a platform. This is the place to affect change. Our job ain't to just preach to them, whether it's to help them mentally and financially if we're able. Too often people come to the church and they leave without getting anything they really need. It's good you get a good feel-good message. Does you no good, and by the time you get to the parking lot, you cussing folk out. It does you no good. If you don't do it for me, then at least do it for you. Care about you enough to want better. Care about you enough to say enough is enough. And when they don't do what we put them in office to do, then just like you complain about everything else and get folk riled up on your side, get them riled up on your side to deal with the people we put in office. I ain't no political person. But one thing I do know, we can't keep going the way we going. Touch your neighbor and say, something got to change. And it starts by us being advocates for social justice. That's our responsibility. That's the role of the church. Come on, put your hands together and bless him. Real quick, because I'm over time, real quick. Those are the churches open. I'm going to ask you 3 questions.